It is Tuesday, October 12th, and this is your daily financial news. Something, if you don't know already, something we do on this channel is we talk about what's going on in the markets. We typically talk about consumers, interest rates, growth rates, things of that nature. Really try to bring you the highlights of the day. My intention is to do this in 12 to 15 minutes. And if you'd like to get your daily financial news and little tidbits, do me a favor, hit subscribe, leave a comment, thumbs up. If you find articles that you like, you can leave links below. I'm the only one that looks at this stuff, so I will likely open it up and see what is going on. So good morning, everyone. How you doing? A couple of things catch my attention today. First and foremost, I don't know about you, but I am starting to see more and more shortages of employees across the board. I don't know if you saw this article, but this is what finally set me over the edge. And that is now we have a shortage of school bus drivers. Yes, apparently the new shortage is school bus drivers. I've heard about coal miners, restaurants, pilots, flight attendants, nurses, roofers, truck drivers, ports, etc., etc., etc. This is how wage inflation starts. This is how wage inflation will continue for years to come. Remember my story from late last week, maybe the weekend. There was a restaurant who was having a hard time. What are my dogs doing? You guys, be nice. Don't know if you could have heard that, but one of them was picking on the other one and making noise, so I apologize about that. So you now have happy in my lap. So back to the shortage of workers and my example from the weekend. This will occur across all industries at different times. This is a wave that is going to come. It is absolutely predictable, and this is why inflation will run for years to come. So this restaurant, like lots of restaurants in this particular locale, was having a very hard time hiring people. Shortage of waiters, shortage of bussers. They would schedule interviews and no one would show up. They would offer hiring bonuses. No one would show up. So what did they do? They took their roughly $15 an hour starting jobs and took it to $25. Guess what happened? No longer do they have a shortage of applications. They have a plethora. Now they are picking from the best of the best. Guess what? They hired their full staff, multiple shifts. But now they have to go and raise prices. Raise prices. This is an interesting dilemma because you would think consumers would not pay them. Well, in fact, when it's the only restaurant open at 8 o'clock because the others have had to shut at 4 because they can't have two shifts, the restaurant wins. This will go across the board. You have a school bus driver problem, double their salary. Someone will show up. You have a problem in the coal mines, double or triple their salary. Someone will show up. This is what is happening right now. We have the great resignation, the great reimagination. We basically have the power of the worker starting. I've been telling you about this for 6 or 9 months now. It is just happening. And it doesn't happen all at once, but it will happen. And it's why inflation will run for years to come, because maybe restaurants are first. Then maybe it's retail shops. Then maybe it's this and maybe it's that. But we are going to see wages, first line wages, go up substantially. The restaurant example, they went up 40%. 40%. And then the menu went up 30%. Wage inflation feels great when you're that new employee making $25 an hour. But then the meals cost 30% more, folks. This is inflation. It is nasty. It is a tax that we all pay. It's just another example of what is going on. And again, if you haven't seen it already, sign up for my free course below and get the 50-year spreadsheet and go look at the 1970s, because I think, again, we are repeating that. Need to call out a video I did yesterday. One of my experts yesterday, Emil, said, hey, what happens if you're wrong? So that was a very interesting discussion. I'd never thought about it, right? What happens if I'm wrong? Maybe wages go down or interest rates go up, shoot up, or go lower. That was a fun conversation to think about. So I called that video out yesterday. What if I'm wrong? Next up, let's talk about Bank of America. Bank of America came out today and said, hey, If you are betting on the Fed to save the stock market this time, you could be greatly disappointed. I think they're right. I think the Fed is kind of already all in. They don't have many chips left on the table. And if the stock market went into a 15, 20, 25, 30% correction that wasn't led by some financial calamity like CDOs and things of that nature, they're just going to let it go, a la the dot-com crash. They did not step into the dot-com crash. In fact, the Fed came in only after the unfortunate and terrible events of 9/11. They did not come in to save the dot-com crash. Something else I read is, or something else I wanted to give a shout out to. I want to give a shout out to the YouTube channel, The Uneducated Economist. If you haven't checked him out yet, I strongly suggest it. I don't always agree with everything he says, but I love the way he talks about different topics, how he breaks them down, how he tries to give basic or simple examples to complex things. I really like The Uneducated Economist, and it's a channel that I follow and look at several times a week. Just thought I would share that with you. I've been asked what channels I follow. Lots of channels you guys send me, I'm like, I can't stand that individual. They're always negative. I really like The Uneducated Economist. I want to give him a shout out. In fact, I would love to interview him. If you are a subscriber to The Uneducated Economist, leave a comment on his latest video, I think talking about stagflation, asking him if he would like to have a conversation with one rental at a time. I did that this morning. Maybe if 10, 15, 20 of you do the same thing on that video, maybe he'll reach out. He's a pretty big channel, so I don't know if he'll reach out to a guy like me, but let's take it a shot. Uneducated Economist. Jamie Dimon's in the news. He's in the news for a couple of reasons. Jamie Dimon had a talk on Monday where a couple of things came out. First and foremost, Jamie Dimon basically is an old man screaming into the wind. He says, Bitcoin is worthless. Okay, that's his opinion. I think it's interesting. He's kind of in the banking segment, so talking his book, right? I think Bitcoin and the cryptos, the ones that win, kind of hurt his business. And also, he's not kind of in the age bracket where Bitcoin is like, hey, this is truly an alternative. If you don't know, what was it, November of last year? Wow, it's almost been a year. God, this year went by fast. I did move 1% of my net worth into crypto just as an insurance policy. Haven't done anything, but I put it there as an insurance policy. On top of that, Jamie Dimon says these supply chain disruptions, the supply chain issues, they will just magically disappear sometime next year. He didn't give any details to like how. I suppose if you follow my first point this morning and you raise salaries at the port and truckers and this and that, yes, that might happen. But I think there's a lot more pain ahead in the supply chain, so we shall see where this goes. And again, I think inflation is just starting, specifically wage inflation. Wage inflation is the campfire that gets out of control and takes everything higher, in my opinion. The IMF is also in the news. The IMF is actually in the news. They cut China's growth rates. This is interesting because the IMF, frankly, doesn't want to piss off China. China gives them a lot of money. They don't want to be seen as negative China. But lo and behold, they actually cut China's GDP expectations. They cut it by a whopping 0.1%. My suspicions about the IMF is if they're cutting it by 0.1, they probably actually think it's going in half. I think they took it to 8. Is that what I said? Yep. They took China's growth rate to 8 from 8.1, kind of insulting. I think there is a very good chance that China GDP prints a negative number, probably by Q1. I believe, as I've been studying the consumer for 30 years, what China has been doing the last 6 or 9 months is starting to impact everyday consumers. They are going to start to save even more. They are going to stop spending money. And they have just crushed their real estate market, and people are going to be unhappy about that. More and more Chinese property developers are not paying the bills. I think I'm up to 6 or 7 now. Interestingly, the next domino, property developers in China, shockingly, are having to pay higher interest rates. This is just how the dominoes fall. It is to be expected. It is what we have been talking about. So again, China's property market will be a source or a drag on their overall economy for years to come. I talked earlier about the great resignation and the great reimagination. The great reimagination is 50% of employees are actively thinking about switching careers. That's pretty cool. You're a teacher, you want to do this, you want to do that. The great reimagination. Some creative names these people have. And again, as I've said for months now, if you are an employee in a frontline job, it has been the best time to renegotiate your salary because they don't want to lose you. And if you do want to change jobs, you will likely get a raise. Something else to talk about is the government is really starting to sell this idea of tracking every bank deposit of $600. We've talked about this a couple of times. I think Anna Kelly was the first to bring it to my attention about a month ago. I can now see their talk track. Tell me if this makes sense. Tell me if this makes sense, because this is a hell of a sales job. I don't even know if I would have the balls to pitch this as a sales leader back in the day. Here's the deal. The American public, the billionaires, the 1% are a bunch of tax cheats. We could be short $7 trillion because the 1%'s not paying their fair share. All right. So far that makes sense, right? That tracks, right? 99% of us want to blame the 1%. It's kind of an easy sale so far. I get it. Oh, by the way, the tax shortfall from a single year could be as high as $460 billion. Hey, I get it. I want the rich to pay their fair share too. Go get them. This is where they lose me. This next thing. We're going to track the 1% by tracking every deposit over $600. Huh? Does anybody really think the billionaires out there are really worried about $600 payments? Folks, the government's not trying to figure out where the tax cheats are at the 1% by tracking $600. They're tracking all of us. This is the government actively telling us a story and trying to take freedoms, in my opinion. You don't tell me a story about the 1% and the billionaires and then tell me you want to track everything over $600. If it was 60 grand, all right. 600 grand? Sure. 60 grand? Six grand? Maybe. 600? Really? You're telling me a story that I can't believe. And then again, remember, all of this goes back what we are suffering through right now when we see headlines like school bus driver shortage and fuel tank shortage. And oh, by the way, folks, this is not a U.S. problem. This is worldwide. I've read about them in Europe, in Asia, in Australia. This is how inflation starts. The way you bring employees back is you pay more. And when you pay more, you will have to raise prices, and the great inflation takes off like the 1970s and the 1940s. So again, folks, if you like your daily financial news, do me a favor, hit the subscription button. I have seen a substantial drop in subscribers here recently. We used to get 20, 25 a day. Now we're getting 6, 8, 10 a day. It's probably my fault because I am not asking for it. So if it helps, I will ask for it now. Have a wonderful day. It is Tuesday. We should be speaking with the Lumberjack and Omar, two of my multimillionaire experts, going over topics that are important to you. Take care. Bye.